Now, one thing that you will most likely do is you're going to try to apply padding to each of these sections, and you're going to find that it screws up your layout. So let's be generic here and provide 10 pixels of padding all around for each section. But watch, reload, now it's all messed up because padding is applied in addition to the width. So without any padding, the width is perfect for 4 columns. But as soon as you add padding, in this case, 10 pixels to the left and right, we've added 20 additional pixels of width to each column, or 80 pixels for all 4 sections. And this is something that irritates a lot of people. So you have a couple options here. One would be to add more unsemantic markup. And what some people would do is within the section, they would add a div right here. And what this allows you to do is then apply the padding to the nested div, and that's not going to create any issues. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to copy this right here so we have our newly formatted markup. And if I reload, it still looks the same, but now we will apply the padding to the div. And it looks like we forgot to add the final omega, so we have alpha 2 3 omega. And now that has fixed it, and we're able to add as much padding as we want. Now, the one problem with this though is, again, maybe it's necessary to add that extra div, but be careful about adding too many divs. We call this div-itis. And if you're not careful, it can really quickly muddy up your markup. So another way that you can fix this, and I will remove all of those, so we are starting from scratch, and I'll get rid of this, is to change the box sizing. So this is a very high level, but the basic box model says that you take the width, and then you add margin, and then you add the paddings applied to the element, and that equals the full width of the element. However, older versions of Internet Explorer did it a different way, and some people think that this made more sense. Internet Explorer would take the width that you specify. So if I said this is 200 pixels, it would say, okay, the width of this element is 200 pixels. It can never increase. If we apply padding, we will reduce the width. So then the effective width would be 180 pixels, and then we would add 10 pixels on the left and right, which comes to 200. And a lot of people think, and I think even including myself, that this made more sense. If I set the width to 200, I don't want its effective width to be higher. I want it to be exactly 200 pixels, regardless of any padding that I have. So we can override this and specify that we want to use the older form by setting the box sizing element. Section, box sizing. Now the default is content box, but we want to update that to set it to border box. So now with that applied, let's add padding of 15 pixels. And now we've added that without having to add any of these extra divs into our markup. If we switch to content box, which is the default and effectively the same as removing it, you'll see that we have that issue again. So what this does is it specifies that we are going to set a width which is already applied by the class that we gave it, grid2, and then any padding will be reduced from that width so that we never increase it and we don't screw up our grid. Now, one problem with this is it's a relatively new property, which means it may not work in older versions of IE, and you need to investigate that to see if that's a problem. Also, because these are new features, many browsers will add what we call prefixes while they're playing with them. So in this case, what you would want to do is, now the reason why it worked just like this is because Chrome is an advanced browser and it's very quick to adopt the new standards. Browsers like Internet Explorer, though they are getting better, are not quite as quick. The same thing with Firefox, and this also accommodates older forms. So though Chrome supports box sizing now, a handful of versions ago it didn't. In that case, in those browsers, it supported the prefix sized version, WebKit box sizing. So this is a good practice to make sure that we are capturing adoption in as many browsers as possible. So that's all we're going to do here for grids. I highly recommend you check it out. It can really increase how quickly you build a website, and it also keeps you from ripping your hair out when you cannot figure out why a particular block is maybe dropping down. These grids are highly tested, and it will ensure that you spend less time fixing bugs and more time building your layouts. And the next lesson will be the beginning of our final project where we will convert a complete website over the course of a few videos to HTML and CSS. So stay tuned.